Hey everyone, second day in Xuchang, last day in Xuchang actually, and I went to a fairly remote part of of the city in a place I think called Zhangpan. But what really is interesting here is you have a certain site called the Hanwei Xudu, and you don't find this in many tourism books, travel books. Hanwei Xudu is the original site of the Xu capital of Xuchang. So I am walking this path here, which leads to the remains, or at least to the location of the real Xuchang capital, imperial capital under Cao Cao. So it's really more of a digging site nowadays. They found a lot of tiles and bricks and some items, and I think there's a temple at the end where the last emperor of the Han Dynasty, so Liu Xie, used to make sacrifices as part of his responsibilities. It's actually pretty neat. It's really green around here, and I think there are some remains of walls and such. Let's see what Hanwei Xudu has to offer. So while I'm walking up this path, quick explanation about Xuchang, why it was the capital. It didn't last that long, but before Xuchang, for the last 200 years or so of the Han Dynasty, the capital was in Luoyang, so a city I will visit later during this trip. But Luoyang was burned by Dong Zhuo, who was, I believe his title would be Prime Minister. So he was abusing the power of the puppet emperor, and was attacked by a coalition of rebel lords. Now he burned the city to the ground on his way out, and reinstalled the capital in Chang'an, so nowadays Xian, which was the original capital of the Han Dynasty. So anyway, the capital transferred back to Chang'an for a little bit. Then the emperor managed to escape Chang'an. After Dong Zhuo's death, two of his main officers managed to grab the power. They kept the emperor in, but he managed to escape, and after some time found his way back to Luoyang, but Luoyang was no longer livable, especially not for an emperor. So what happened is that Cao Cao invited the emperor to a new, or at least improved town of Xuchang, and this is why Xuchang became the capital of the Han Dynasty for, well, really for the last bit of the Han Dynasty, for the last 20-25 years or so of the Han Dynasty. Now there is more to say on the topic, because even though the emperor was in Xuchang, Cao Cao would soon change his capital, so you could say there were two capitals as far as Cao Cao was concerned, and then it went back to Luoyang a bit at the end. But yeah, you would say that so Xuchang is really the capital of Cao Cao. And as far as cities are concerned, Xuchang is probably the one city that we hear about the most in the Three Kingdoms. So when you read the Three Kingdoms, the city that is mentioned the most probably is Xuchang. I'm wondering maybe Chengdu, but that would be more for the end, or the second part of the book, of this story. But for the first part, at least until the very end of the Han Dynasty, Xuchang was one of the most important locations of the Three Kingdoms era, or at least the last years of the Han Dynasty. So I'm really excited. Can you imagine? I'm walking exactly where those guys used to live. Like, right now I'm stepping where Cao Cao stepped, and so many others. Like, they breathe the same air. Probably not as polluted back then, but they were here, and there is almost nothing left of it. Just to think that I'm standing exactly where they used to stand, it's frankly amazing. It's pretty cute too. Now coming here is takes a bit of time, so it's about 40 minutes by car from Xuchang. You have a bus that I believe takes you very close to this site. So you need to have not so much plan for the rest of the day. But as we will see, that's not all this part of the area has to offer. There's actually two other sites nearby that I believe will be worth the visit. One is a temple dedicated to Zhang Fei, of all people, and the second is the tomb of one of the 5 elite generals of Cao Cao. Just a bit of warning here. Just in front of the temple, so the last part of Xudu that still exists, they are raising bees. They are making honey. So if that's a problem for you, be warned. There are hundreds of bees, thousands of bees right next to me right now. Look at that. Maybe they are making imperial jelly. Sorry, dad's joke. Can you believe I am on the platform right now where Yuxiu, last emperor of the Han Dynasty, Emperor Xian, used to make sacrifices and prayers. He would fast and bathe here, or at the base of the platform, then come here to worship the ancestors. This is the last part of the ancient capital of Xuchang that still exists. The rest is basically under the earth. You have a few monticules or elevated, bits of earth, but in general all of it is gone. The last bit that still exists, the last proof that Xuchang was a thing that still exists, is right here where I stand. The people have been very nice, by the way. So the people who live or here or nearby are super nice, super friendly. And they mentioned that they see a few foreigners here and there, so they are used to it and they are very welcoming. So feel free to talk to them if you can. There wasn't much to see, to be honest, but that was good. Just knowing that I'm standing there. It's a bit of a pilgrimage that I would recommend to Three Kingdoms fans. Just to know that you're there is pretty awesome. Now, talking of pilgrimage, I'm going to try to head to that tomb I mentioned earlier. It's 1 hour on foot, and it's fairly hot today, so I will try to get a ride somewhere. Let's see if anyone around is willing to take me to this general's tomb. Okay, I was going to ask some help from the folks sitting in the small shack next to the Hanwei Xudu, but on the way there, a dog almost ate me. So I freaked out a little bit, and now I'm walking towards this tomb. It's a real pilgrimage, guys. For all the crazy stuff I've done for the Three Kingdoms, that must be the top. Seriously, walked for almost 1 hour across the Chinese countryside, including villages where I don't think they've seen many foreigners in since the Mongols maybe. But what wouldn't I do for the Three Kingdoms, eh? I met several dogs after that one that almost bit me, but they were all very nice, so that's all good. Alright, time for the great reveal. I'm about to reach the tomb of the great general Xu Huang, one of the 5 generals of Cao Cao, 5 elite generals of Cao Cao. He has a very interesting background. He did so much. One of those who accompanied the Emperor Xian when he escaped Chang'an and all the way to Luoyang, where he entered the service of Cao Cao. Then he fought in so many battles in Yan province against bandits. Then he would have fought against Ma Chao during Ma Chao's uprising, you would call it. And finally, he was one of those generals responsible for the fall of the mighty Guan Yu. So, you know, a fairly important figure of the Three Kingdoms, one of the most distinguished generals of this era. Now, this place is so isolated, so remote, that there's not even a proper way to get to this tomb. So I think it's the first time in 15 years of traveling China that I end up in such a remote place. Now I'll try. I asked the farmers around if I was allowed to visit, you know, and they say sure. I mean, they politely agreed to it. Now I'll try to reach the tomb without trampling any crop. But yeah, seriously, what wouldn't I do for the Three Kingdoms? Now, you might be thinking that I'm crazy to have gone through all of this just for a small monticule over there. But I swear it's worth it. Even more because I went through all of this. I'm pretty sure I just saw a snake passing by my feet, by the way, on the way here. And this pile of bricks here looks like the perfect ground for a snake to live, actually. So, please, spirit of Xu Huang, be kind. I think I did alright by you in my books. Okay, next up, if I manage to exit this field alive, there is a small temple for Zhang Fei nearby. And by nearby, I mean about 1 hour of walk again. So, see you there. Yeah, alright, I confirm there was a snake earlier. I just saw it again, or unless that's another one, which is somehow even more scary. And I'm out of the field and still alive, thank God. Alright, back to civilization. Alright, almost there. 2 villages, 1 hour later. Nothing tried to kill me, at least on the way here. Finally getting to Bao Gong Zhai, a temple dedicated to Zhang Fei. So yeah, this one is a very authentic rural temple dedicated to Zhang Fei. They have statues of Zhang Fei at the center between Guan Yu and Liu Bei, which is pretty uncommon. I don't think I've seen that once except in Langzhong, the city where Zhang Fei is buried. It's really well maintained. A very local temple, just the way I like. Nothing much to see, but yeah, you know what? There's a nice atmosphere. Yeah, the two small halls next to the main one contain some information about the Three Kingdoms, obviously, but also the discoveries in the neighborhood. Like there are maps of the tombs that can be found around, including some that I didn't know existed. So I wish I knew that before I came here. I will check the names of those people and those tombs so that I can give them to you in the description of this video or something else. Good find. I'm happy I went all the way there. Again, that was a nice little moment of pilgrimage. Okay, I've been trying to shoot this video for the last 30 or 40 minutes. I am right now at Wang Yu's tomb. And I've never seen a tomb near such a dynamic location. It's full of activity. There are people everywhere, young people, old people playing cards and chess and everything. So if I were Wang Yun, I would feel pretty happy about having a resting place like this one. Looks pretty good. I'm a bit perplexed because I don't know why Wang Yun would be buried in Xuchang. The guy died in Chang'an, and so which is pretty far from here even now, so I can't imagine then. But I'm guessing maybe he had some family connected to Cao Cao, or maybe it's because of the service he rendered to the emperor by being the cause for Dong Zhuo's death. That made the emperor ask for his remains to be brought close by. So in any case, this is Wang Yun's tomb, and it looks pretty chill. What's it? Still doesn't beat the feeling of Fei Yi's tomb in Zhaohua, but it's still pretty good. Now, Wang Yun might not be the most famous historical figure from the Three Kingdoms, but be the father or the master, maybe, of Zhangpan, one of the four beauties of China. And the reason why Dong Zhuo and Lü Bu went on to fight each other, basically they used a strategy where they drove both Dong Zhuo and his son-in-law apart, using Zhangpan's beauty and cunning, and Wang Yun's strategy a little bit, of course. So thanks to him, China got rid of one of its worst tyrants ever. He deserves the tomb. She probably deserves one too, but I don't think there is such a thing. Anyway, that's it for me today. That's it for Xuchang. Tomorrow I will be heading to Anyang and to visit Cao Cao's tomb. Sounds pretty exciting. Another tomb. Why am I so happy about visiting tombs? You tell me.